Today on the 1012 Big Show, I'm joined by Treavor Leavitt to recap everything that went down in the Big 12 this weekend, including taking a look at the contenders. That includes the Houston Cougars. Then Sophie Smith of ESPN Plus joins us to take a deep dive on the hottest team in the Big 12 right now, the KState Wildcats. And of course, Kiddy joins us to look at some early lines, teams that impressed or disappointed him this weekend, and a great early look at next week's slate coming up on the 1012 Big Show.
Introducing Oakley Meta Vanguard, the new performance AI glasses designed for athletes. With hands-free capture on an action-ready ultra-wide camera, powerful open-ear speakers, and built-in Meta AI that syncs with your Garmin devices for real-time insights while you train. Take your performance to the next level with Oakley Meta Vanguard. Athletic intelligence is here. Learn more on meta.com.
Sean Bean and Connie Nielsen star in Robin Hood, a timeless legend reimagined, where allegiances are tested and kingdoms hang in the balance. The saga begins with a double episode premiere November 2nd, only on MGM+.
Welcome to the 1012 Big Show, where we recap the weekend that was of Big 12 action with a variety of guests. This week, that includes Treavor Leavitt, Kiddy, and more coming up. Oh, I'm so excited for this show, as I am every week. The 1012 podcast is, of course, the flagship show of the 1012 Network. Find every show in the network at 1012network.com. That's TEN, the number 12, the word network. I figure out you can do the rest on your own with the .com. We're also partners with Sports Social, Europe's biggest sports podcast network. I'm your host, Phillip. Thank you for joining us on this Monday or Tuesday. If you waited a day, which is understandable, that's fine. No worries. You're not going to hurt my feelings. One thing you can do, though, wherever you're listening, please do us a favor. Leave us 5 stars and a review. It would be a huge help. It just takes you a couple minutes. It does a lot for us. So if you could, I would appreciate it. If you are watching or listening on YouTube, go ahead and just like the video, leave us a comment, subscribe, and we'll be good to go. All right. As we do every week with this show, we kick things off with our very first segment by going in the rotation. Thrilled this week to welcome a first-time in the rotation guest, one of the 4 fantastic contributors in our BYU show, the Hype Train podcast. I will not rank them 1 to 4 or tell you where he ranks, but I'll just say that he is one of the 4 best hosts of the Hype Train podcast. Treavor Leavitt joining us today. Treavor, welcome to the 1012, man.
I appreciate it. Love talking Big 12 and love representing BYU. So glad to be here.
This is obviously a podcast or an audio format, but if you should go check out the Hype Train's YouTube channel, because the amount of BYU that I am looking at right now, it's a lot of blue. It's a lot of blue, a lot of white. I laughed this weekend because I turned on the Iowa State BYU game, and it was just the logos when I was going to it. My wife looks and goes, "Yale?" I was like, "What?" She goes, "Why are they playing Yale?" It's like, "That's the BYU logo, honey." She goes, "Why is it a Y?" So yeah, all right. All right, we will start off with the contenders in the Big 12. Cincinnati dominates Baylor 41-20. Texas Tech shuts out Oklahoma State 42-0, though they do lose backup quarterback Will Hammond. It looks like for the rest of the season. BYU comes back from behind to beat Iowa State and Ames 41-27. Obviously more on that coming up. And of Houston, yes, Houston. I don't care what the odds say. Don't tell me the odds. Never tell me the odds. Houston is a contender. They go on the road, hold on to beat Arizona State. So I will read you what ESPN's FPI, and you know we all have certain feelings about FPI. I'll tell you what their numbers say here in just a second. But to my mind at this point, Texas Tech with Baron Morton, BYU, Cincinnati, Houston. That's the list. There's a couple teams we can say, they could find a way to get back in it. This is the conference of chaos. Things happen. It's wild. But Treavor, I know you. How do you feel about that list of 4? Did I leave anybody out you feel I should have left into our moving forward contenders unless some crazy things happen.
No, I think you've nailed it, and I think the product that each team has put on the field up to this point would suggest that you're correct there. And honestly, what a fun showing for the new additions to the Big 12. Texas Tech, obviously not a new addition, but between NIL and them kind of taking a step forward as Oklahoma and Texas leaves, to see them and to see these new additions join the conference and not only validate the decision to invite them, but to show that this conference is as deep as maybe it's ever been has been awesome. So no, I don't disagree with that list at all.
So I've seen a lot of, and to their credit, they have every right to pound their chests and celebrate the newcomers, talking about the fact that, look, our Viva La Cats, our Cincinnati podcast, tweeted out, they're like, haha, welcome to the new brethren of the Big 12. You got BYU, Cincinnati, and Houston sitting up here in the top 4. This is incredible. And I love it. It's very Big 12. This stuff is cyclical. We see new teams rise and fall all the time. Arizona State's not, hasn't completely fallen off, but we haven't had a repeat champ since, or even repeat team in the Big 12 title game since OU did it from 2017 to 2020. But I have to ask this, and I have to bring this up because, if we look at, there's been some nitpicking about the AP rankings, and there's always nitpicking about the AP rankings. And I think there's always been some validity, but I think this year more than ever, because we've seen some of the gaffes, mistakes, and errors and basic admittance by some AP voters that they don't really pay enough attention or know what's going on outside of the team that they cover, that the AP Top 25 may not be the best thing. Also, the guy who used to run it's not running it anymore, and so maybe it's just a one-year blip. We'll see. But I can't help but feel like the fact that you have 3 of the newcomers in the conference with BYU, Cincinnati, and Houston, and the 4 not Pac-12, 3 of those are the not Pac-12 schools. They're not corner 4. So it's not Utah, it's not Arizona, it's BYU, Cincinnati, and Houston. And the fact that they're in that top 4 contender list, and a team that hasn't won a conference title in God knows how long in Texas Tech, is hurting the Big 12 nationally. And listen, I understand that that's nonsense, and I understand that I would match these 4 teams up against pretty much anyone in the country. But it's hard not to look at this and say, you know what, they're dinging the Big 12 because it's not, Oklahoma State's fallen off, and it's not Kansas State who's fallen off, and it's not Iowa State that everyone thought would be there, and it's not Utah, and it's not Arizona State. BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, and Texas Tech, who's been there for a while, yeah, but it's not like Texas Tech has some long history of being the best team in the conference. I feel like the Big 12's being dinged because of the team sitting atop the standing.
Yeah, I think your perceptions are spot on there. And to be honest, it's kind of been the uphill battle that Brett Yormark has been fighting, just with the vision of, how people see the Big 12 as is. And honestly, with these 4 teams being at the top of the conference race at the moment, unfortunately, I think we're, becoming victims of confirmation bias. You look at how long it took Cincinnati to even get ranked. Houston at 7-1 is, finally cracking the top 25. It's one of these things where it just needs to be settled on the field. And obviously we, as the Big 12 and as their fans, are hoping that we get a shot. Because personally, I think that, and maybe this sounds crazy, I know probably to the outside of the Big 12, this probably sounds nuts, but I feel like the Big 12 is a 3-team league. I think you can take any 3 of the 4 that you've mentioned, and they're going to give whoever they play in a playoff format trouble. So it really, what it comes down to is, not only do these teams need to finish out strong at the end of the year within the conference, but how are you going to represent yourself and your conference once you reach the college football playoff, whoever that may be, however many teams that may be. Arizona State, I felt like, took a large step in the right direction last year, giving Texas everything that they could handle, between Sam Leavitt, my cousin, and Scattaboo, who, pray for his recovery as he got injured today for the Giants. But that's ultimately where we fix these views that the other conferences and these people have, is finish the year out strong. Don't peter off, don't fall off the edge, and turn this league into a one big league, and then go out and show your worth once you get to that college football playoff stage.
Yeah, listen, the Big 12, there's going to be a reason every year the Big 12 is dinged. Valid or not. And 99 times out of 100, it's not valid. It's just whatever narrative needs to fit. It's fun when the upstarts are Vanderbilt coming from, the SEC. It's fun when the upstarts are Indiana coming from the Big Ten. It's not as fun when the upstarts are coming from the Big 12 conference. Mind you, what's ridiculous is that BYU is finally in the top 10. And, typically, it's not like BYU. BYU was good last year. And I understand you lost a lot of last year as a new starting quarterback. No one had good expectations for BYU, and so they've surpassed them. It's just so wild to me that you had a good BYU team, and now you have another good BYU team. And at this point, it's built on, hey, the consistency at head coach, a phenomenal defensive coordinator in Jay Hill. And yet it's taken them this long to get the credit they deserve. And look, to touch on the game from Saturday, BYU lost LJ Martin in the first half. That was a tough spot. Didn't matter in the end. Second half comeback. I can make a case this is BYU's best win of the season. And I understand Iowa State's record at this point, but they don't lose at home. That's why we kind of picked this on the picks pod on Thursday. This was trap game scenario for Iowa State. And, you go into halftime and Iowa State's like, yep, this is what I thought might happen just because it's Ames, Iowa. It's kind of like BYU at night. Iowa State had time to prepare and they were, and then BYU just came out in the second half and absolutely took over. Again, Jay Hill, phenomenal. I think he is the most underrated coordinator in the country based on which ones actually get talked about the most. And I don't think anyone talks about Jay Hill nationally. Yeah, sure, I have the BYU game on, maybe if you're listening to some Big 12 stuff, but that's not a coordinator that everyone's talking about. That's not a coordinator who's getting attached to job openings. What is it about this BYU team? Obviously the defense, but Bear Bachmeier kind of came out of nowhere to some extent. What is it about this BYU team that they just keep winning?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. And I laughed a little bit when you mentioned that BYU is a top 10 team because they are. But of course, it comes with the caveat of somehow being tied for 10th with Miami. I didn't even know they did that with the AP poll. That was something that was new to me as of today. So I guess the thing is I would call that bulletin board material for BYU. But the question you asked is, how do they keep winning? I think it's the intrinsic motivation, the inner motivation that this team and specifically Coach Kalani Sitake has created within this program that has allowed them to have success regardless of what happens. One of the things that I appreciate so much about Coach Sitake is his willingness to look at adversity as an opportunity. And, BYU's dealt with quite a bit of adversity over the last couple of weeks. You lose Jack Kelly for a game against Arizona. You go up 14, you have a rain delay, you go down 14, and then you end up winning that game in overtime. You lose LJ Martin, as you mentioned, in Jack Trice Stadium yesterday in a hostile environment. My parents were at the game. They had nothing but good things to say about the environment there. It's a hard place to win. But when your motivation and the culture is so much focused on the good that you and your team can do despite everything that happens to you, that's when you're able to look at those moments as opportunities to do something great. And they have the players to capitalize on that. And there's the obvious ones, right? So there's guys like Chase Roberts, who, we expected to be good. Keanu Tanuvasa, even though his stats aren't jumping off the page, is demanding so many double teams and doing his thing there. Jack Kelly, obviously, Isaiah Glasker, another Tanner Wall, just to name a few. But then you bring in these guys that the expectations were low as far as the outside view goes, but the belief and the confidence instilled in them by the coaches and by their teammates around them. You have guys like Parker Kingston, who has 6 touchdowns in the last 4 games and has had over 100 receiving yards, I think, in 3 of the last 4. You have John Taumaipeau, who has benefited greatly from Tanuvasa's threat on the interior D line. And then obviously, as you mentioned, Bear Bachmeier, who comes in after spring ball, was playing for an entirely different team during spring ball in Stanford, and comes in and between the belief that he had in himself and the culture that Kalani's created, is able to step into an Aaron Roderick-led offense and have success. you mentioned Vanderbilt, like Diego Pavia, like he's, asking for the Heisman. Well, him and Bear Bachmeier have the same stats up to this point, like similar total yards, similar amount of, like the same amount of touchdowns. And I think one of them has one less turnover than the other. I can't remember. But when the point is when you create this culture of a winning culture, that you are a winner and that you can, accomplish great things despite the bad that just naturally comes in the game of football and just in life in general. It's hard to hold a team like that down. And for a team that's gone down, 14 twice, 3 times, during their 8-game win streak, to be able to claw back and win all those, it's a gritty team. And I'm biased, obviously, but just really proud of, the culture that Kalani set, and it's extended to the fans. But they're, I don't know, I could talk about them all day, but it's kind of where I draw the line. Is I think it's a culture thing.
I believe it. The way this team plays, they've been phenomenal this season. The fact they still sit here undefeated, despite just what all they've had to deal with in the offseason leading into the season and during the season, is incredible. So BYU sitting in the driver's seat, for the Big 12 title game. The schedule doesn't get any easier on the way there, but they're sitting in a really good spot with what they have left to play. Also sitting in a spot to kind of somewhat control their destiny, despite the loss of Texas Tech, is Houston. Shout out to Houston, who typically plays a huge percentage of their downs in zone coverage defensively. But they played mostly man against Arizona State, which worked phenomenally. The Arizona State receivers were, I think, disappointing would be an understatement in that game. And I don't want to sit here and dwell on the Arizona State negative side of it. Props to Houston, specifically the defense, going on the road and ending Arizona State's 10-game home win streak. Like, I know Arizona State made it close late, and that was phenomenal. They get to a 1-score game. I knew not having Jordan Tyson would be a problem. We talked about that on the podcast. Like, we knew that would be an issue. Wow, was that an issue? We all thought it was like, well, if Sam Leavitt misses the game, well, they're in trouble. I just didn't expect to see the offense struggle at home this bad against a good Houston defense, a good one, but and in every facet. I mean, they'd miss field goals. It was such a weird game to see Arizona State play.
Yeah, it's unfortunately for Arizona State fans, kicking has seemed to be kind of a touchy subject the last 2 years. So hopefully they're able to get that figured out. But no, you brought up Jordan Tyson. I can't remember the exact stat, but it was like Sam Leavitt or Arizona State was like 12-0 in games where Sam Leavitt and Jordan Tyson both play together. Those two together are Jordan and Pippen almost. It feels like when they're able to be on the field together, and then the team just looks so much different when they're not. Which is obviously is a huge compliment to them. But as you mentioned, like this Houston team's good, and it's similarly to Utah. Like, Utah's a good football team as well. They just happen to play Texas Tech. That's kind of where Houston is as well, where this is a really good team. They just happen to hit that Texas Tech buzzsaw. Otherwise, you put any other team in there outside of Texas Tech, and I'll throw BYU in there too, I guess. Like, if you play any other Big 12 team, we're probably talking about 8-0 Houston, and that's a conversation that's probably worth having. But they're, between Connor Weisman and everything that they've done there, it's a great Houston team.
Phenomenal. Just shout out to Houston. I love it. I did not think that the turnaround would come this fast, but it has, and it's wild to see. Obviously, Cincinnati completely blows out Baylor. Big win for them, especially in relation to the fact that they're still in contention in the Big 12 as well. ESPN's FPI, so the contender percentage at this point. BYU leads all teams at 39%, followed by Texas Tech at 34.7%, Cincinnati at 12.7%, Utah at 8.7%, and then this is where it gets wild to me. TCU at 1.6%, Houston at 1.4%, Kansas State at 1.4%. Listen, we all know the FPI is what it is. I just great. I'm glad your computers are that way, because have we actually looked at the remaining schedule for the Contenders? Houston's got the easiest path left. West Virginia, at UCF, TCU, and at Baylor. I'm not saying that they're going to go undefeated the rest of the way and only have one loss on their record. There's no other contenders. They're not going to worry about tie-breaking losses the rest of the way. Meanwhile, Texas Tech and BYU have to face off in a couple of weeks. Texas Tech's got to go face the hottest team in the Big 12 in KState. I mean, that's 2 straight back-to-back games that are going to be tricky. You get BYU, of course, like we said. They've got Texas Tech. They've also got Cincinnati on the road to deal with. That's another contender right there. You look at the schedule and go, I get it. But also, Cincinnati's got BYU and Utah left on their schedule. And then there's Houston with 4 teams that aren't auto W's. I'm not going to pretend like they are. I mean, what West Virginia is. But it's nuts to me that anything at this point, that the metrics, A, they just got ranked, and B, anything looks at them and goes, no, they don't. They're not going to do it. It's not going to happen for them. Why? Why not Houston? Why not Houston at this point?
Yeah, looking at their schedule, toughest game left is probably TCU, and they get them at home. I mean, UCF's been, a little bit hit or miss. They are at the Bounce House in Florida. That could be a little bit of a weird game. But as good as Sawyer Robertson has been, equally so has Baylor's defense been bad. And so I just don't know if, Baylor at Baylor in Waco is enough to overcome this Houston team. And at this point of the season, especially, you mentioned they're just now getting ranked. This is where the momentum starts going. This is eerily similar to Arizona State last year, where for most of the year it's okay, yeah, Arizona State's, picked up a couple of games. They've surprised us a little bit with how hot they've started in the Big 12, but there's no way this lasts. And it did. So definitely got my eye on Houston. Obviously, as a BYU guy, I'm hoping somebody somewhere, obviously if BYU wins out, that's probably the easiest path, but hoping there's a stumbling block along the way in some cases, so we don't have to, worry about these tiebreakers and, coin flips and all these things to figure out who's going to be in the Big 12 championship, because, it's towards the end of the year. It's looking like it's going to be a bit of a mess, a beautiful mess, but a mess nonetheless.
That's called the Big 12 Conference, sir. Let's run through some other results from this weekend. TCU beats West Virginia 23-17. Not sure there's a good Big 12 team I trust less than the Horned Frogs. This one reminded me in some ways of the Arizona State game, except that the Mountaineers aren't as good as the Sun Devils, and TCU hung on to win. Kansas State wins their 17th straight Sunflower Showdown. The Wildcats have completely turned around their season. We're going to talk about them more in depth here in just a few minutes. One wild stat, Kansas State now leads all Power 4 teams this season with 17 forced turnovers, including 9 fumble recoveries and 8 interceptions. That's one ahead of the team with the second most forced turnovers in the Power 4, BYU, at 16. As for Kansas, it sucks for Kansas that the year Daniels is finally healthy for the year and has an OC who fits him. The roster is not there. It's just not up to snuff. It's massively disappointing. Utah isn't out of the title game race yet, but given who they've lost to, they're going to need a lot of help. Smoking Colorado late Saturday doesn't necessarily hurt them in any way, shape, or form. The Buffs have been better than expected this season, but on Saturday, if you didn't see this, Utah outgained Colorado by 416 yards in the first half. It's not that they had 416 yards. Utah had 398 yards. Colorado had minus 18 yards in the first half.
Wild.
It's not great. Not great. Okay. Treavor, any final thoughts before we let you go?
The only one that hurts me just a little, and to be honest, I was probably leaning Kansas State on Saturday, but losing, you said it was 17 straight. As somebody who sat through a 9 game, 12-year losing streak to Utah, you mentioned Jalen Daniels not having the roster. Even if he had the roster at this point, it's a mental hurdle, I feel like, for Kansas. And at some point, I hope that streak ends. But man, that's a tough place to be if you're a Kansas fan.
Yes, it is. Treavor, appreciate your time today, man. Everybody go check out the Hype Train podcast, our BYU show here in the 1012 network. Phenomenal work you guys do over there. Thrilled to have you in the network. Great representation for the Big 12 and BYU. So y'all go check out the show this week. I know it's going to be phenomenal.
Appreciate you having me on, and go Cougs.
This episode is presented by State Farm. Having insurance isn't the same as having State Farm. It's like needing the protection of an offensive guard on the football field, but getting an elementary school crossing guard. Sure, they're both guards, but you can only trust one to keep your quarterback safe when the game is on the line. So don't settle for just any insurance when there's State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
All right, segment 2 of our show is when we dive in deep on one team in particular. And this week, it's got to be one of the hottest teams in the country, definitely one of the hottest teams in the Big 12, and that is the Kansas State Wildcats, who have completely turned things around after a very, very rocky start to the year. Very excited to have Sophie Smith of ESPN Plus joining us today. Sophie, welcome to the 1012.
Hi, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thrilled to have you. Excited to talk a little bit of Kansas State. You are there for many of the games, so you felt like the perfect person to come on and talk about the Wildcats with, as you're keeping your eyes on them every single week. Let's dive in with this weekend. First off, Kansas State wins their 17th straight Sunflower Showdown. This is a series that just at this point Kansas State may never lose another Sunflower Showdown again. Like I don't even know. I don't even know. What was it about this game coming into it? Kansas State obviously has kind of figured some things out, but I mean, playing this in Lawrence and for Kansas State to dominate the way they did, I think it was one of the most surprising outcomes of the weekend. Not that Kansas State won again, but won in the fashion that they did.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is like a real turning point for this Kansas State team. I think there was a lot of factors that went our way, it being an 11 a.m. kick, only being an hour and a half down the road. Guys just woke up, play. They were fired up all week. Lots of Kansas kids got to speak during the week to the whole team and just meant a lot to these guys. And I grew up in Kansas as well. Means a lot to my family, too. My mom went to KU. My dad went to KState. So it's always been a big deal. And you're right, in the fashion that they played in, Avery Johnson, standout game, Jace Brown standout game. I don't think it could have happened any better.
No, I don't know that it I don't think it could have worked out any better at all. What has led to this Kansas State turnaround? Because they are a few plays against Baylor away from being on just an absolute tear of a winning streak. What has happened here? And again, listen, I know Kansas State they weren't getting blown out in games. They weren't getting dominated in games. They were losing a lot of close games. 1-score games, 3 points to Iowa State, 3 points to Army, 6 points to Arizona. And then they get to Big 12 play. And of course, after the Air Lingus, mind you, and then it's dominate UCF at home. It's blow a game on the road at Baylor. It's dominate TCU at home. It's dominate Kansas State on the road. What has led to this turnaround for Kansas State where things don't just seem to be clicking? They seem to be firing on all cylinders.
I feel like leadership has really stepped up. I feel like a lot of the older guys really have now understand like what's on the line. I went to Ireland. I experienced the whole thing. Wasn't a hot start. But I feel like, again, with the KU game going how it went, the preparation that went into it, I feel like things are starting to click. I think the trust is starting to be built a lot better, trusting in the coordinators and then trusting in each other. Avery Johnson, the way that he leads this team is incredible. Just seeing the way that they fight for each other now has been like just a weird click. I don't know what it has been like, truly, but I think just from the outside looking in, the way that they've started to trust each other and trust in their preparation has been one of the keys.
During the start of the season, you got a 1-3 start, things just aren't going right. And the vibes around Kansas State fandom weren't great. Listen, social media is not representative of everyone and everything. It's where people go to vent frustrations and voice more negativity than positivity. But there were a lot of like, is Kansas State going to be a job that we are shocked to see come open at the end of the season based off the vibes, right? And obviously special teams are still a bit of an issue for Kansas State, and that is not something that Kansas State fans are okay with. But what do you feel like the vibe is now around Kansas State fans and around Manhattan in this program with this turnaround and a team that seems like it's got a lot of opportunity left in front of it?
Yeah, I feel like I agree. Social media is completely different because we were a 2-3 team still selling out Bill Snyder every single week. Like, it was still packed. Fans were still showing up. I feel like the support in person has been awesome. People are staying till the end of the games. You're not really seeing that with other teams. I'm looking on Twitter and just seeing how empty other stadiums are. You genuinely don't get that at Bill Snyder. Everyone stays till the very end. Student section stays till the very end. And yeah, the guys see it. They're on social media. Like, they're not dumb. They know what's going on. And that obviously, it hurts me to see that they're seeing that, because obviously it's a small percentage of people that are saying stuff, but you know, people are saying it, they're seeing it. I don't like it. But compared to other teams, what I've seen, I think our support has been a lot better than other schools.
Listen, you know, some schools justifiably aren't going well, and maybe the fans are having to do other things, but Kansas State fans, tried and true, show up on a regular basis. Still waiting for the Kansas State shirtless student section that seems to be.
I don't think that's going to happen. I pray it doesn't happen.
Okay, listen, it's happening. Like, it's happening everywhere. Text doing it. Georgia Tech, it's everywhere. At some point, Manhattan will have their section 231. I can feel it. That leads me, Sophie, to the question of what's it like there on the sidelines at Kansas State during a game? What do you see, or what goes on around you that regular fans who tune in and watch or pay attention just don't get to see?
I think it's awesome that our student section is right behind the opposing team's bench. And so, yeah, when I'm walking around, it's constant chirping. It's them being in their ear. It's awesome. And then since they stay for the whole game, it goes on the entire game. I think fans who come to Manhattan do the whole experience. It's a whole weekend thing. It's not just you drive up on Saturday and you drive back. Hotels are always sold out. My dad even complains about it, not being able to get a hotel. Right when the schedule comes out, those hotel rooms are booked. But I just think it's such an awesome experience, even being like an in-state kid going to school here. I grew up a Wichita State fan. I did not grow up a K-State fan, but their broadcast program was so awesome. I just could not say no to coming here, and it's been one of the best decisions ever. I could not imagine it anywhere else.
That's great. Love to hear it. What is the best interaction you've had on the sideline so far this season?
This season?
With a fan, a coach, a player, a ref, anybody.
Put me on the spot. Oh, I, like, every single year, I always take a picture with the opposing team's mascot if they bring them. So I took a bunch of pictures with the UCF Knight and the Super Frog. The Super Frog was so sweaty because it was the hottest game I think we've ever played ever. But I always like to go up to like the cheerleaders too and like meet them and introduce myself to them, just because I am on the field and I don't want to just be like some random face. But it's awesome. I get to meet all the like Fox sideline reporters and TNT reporters when they come. And one of my good friends, Tori, who did the Baylor game and got taken out by Avery Johnson. I don't know if you saw that, but I texted her right after it happened and she was like, it looked way worse than it was. He just clipped my arm and spun me around. So I really hope that never happens to me, but she went pretty viral on Twitter and Instagram.
So it's a trade-off. Like, it probably doesn't feel good, but you get to go viral, right? And so for the follower count, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Looking at Kansas State's schedule the rest of the way, they've got a huge game this weekend against Texas Tech at home. They get a week off before they travel to Kansas State and to Oklahoma State and Utah in back-to-back weeks, and then close things out at home against Colorado. What do you feel like is the ceiling for this Kansas State team the rest of the week?
Well, I feel like beating OSU and Colorado, that's a bowl game. Beating Texas Tech disrupts the Big 12 race, and then winning out, we could go back to Arlington. I think after the way that we've played against TCU at home, and the way we played against KU, I think our ceiling's very high. I have full confidence in this team. It's hard to play at Bill Snyder. We did get a 2:30 slot for this weekend against Tech, which is exciting. It's my favorite time. Not to be biased, it's my favorite game time. But I think this team is fully capable of getting back to Arlington and winning out. Utah's going to be tough. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's going to be really tough. But I think this is the team that
just hoping you don't get that Utah game at the 9:15 p.m. local time,
Yeah.
Or God's time kickoff. So that would be big. Let's say Kansas State this weekend pulls off the upset, knocks off Texas Tech. Things get really interesting, get to go in the bye week feeling just absolutely fantastic. What did Kansas State do on the field to get the win in that situation?
Against KU or?
No, against Texas Tech. Let's say Kansas State beats Texas Tech on Saturday. What do you feel like they did to get that win?
I really think Avery just doing his thing, doing what he does best, being able to feel pressure in the pocket and still be able to find Jace, find Tibbs, make those plays. Also, I feel like we get our tight ends involved. We did not get them very involved against KU. Garrett Oakley, best tight end in the nation, went off against TCU. And I feel like if we really utilize our tight ends, I think that's also going to be such a game changer and going to be very hard for Tech to defend.
All right. I'd be remiss not to at least talk a little bit of basketball because basketball season's about to be here.
Yeah.
What are your expectations for the Kansas State men's team this year?
I think they're very high. After I got spoiled coming in my freshman year, football, we won the Big 12 tournament in our championship in Arlington, and then we went to the Elite Eight in basketball. We got very spoiled. And the last 2 years have not been anything close to that, but I genuinely, even just not being a K-State fan, have very high hopes for this team. I think everyone's been meshing very well. Like, the chemistry on the team is a lot better than last year. I think these guys truly understand what it means to wear K-State on their jersey and are going to play for that. So I'm very excited to be back in Bramlage to watch those guys.
Sophie, appreciate you hopping on the show with us today. Do me a favor. Where can everybody check out the work you do covering Kansas State?
You can find me on Instagram. I'm Sophie Smith _32. And I think Twitter, I'm Sophie Smith. And then at the end of Smith, it's 2 E's, I think.
Okay. Sophie, again, thanks so much for hopping on. Good luck for the rest of the season. Hopefully you don't get taken out, although it would be fun to go viral.
Thank you. If I do, I will let you know, and you'll be the first one to hear about
it. You DM it to me, and we will make sure that we share it as well.
Good. I'm glad.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the Dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
All right, for our third segment of the show, you know him, you love him. He's here every week, twice a week. He is the man from BetMGM, Chase A. Kiddy. Chase, welcome back, friend.
Phillip, good evening. I'm just out here grinding out these rent checks, man.
Yeah.
Good
writing
good
checks. You're. I don't. Huh?
We're talking betting here. We're talking betting. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't.
I'm being a little dramatic. I think
Okay.
the wife's salary probably covers things.
I mean, I feel like she's definitely the breadwinner in this situation, but that's okay.
It's
That's okay.
not close.
Listen,
It's not close.
There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with the woman making more money than the man. We're not sexist here on this show, I like to think. Okay, now that this has gotten real weird. Hey, Chase, what outcome this weekend had the biggest impact on your view of that team or the conference as a whole?
I mean, it was kind of a boring week. I don't know how else to say that, but there were some teams that didn't play, and then there were other teams. Like, we had multiple top of the conference or near the top of the conference teams playing bottom of the conference teams in total routes. So there weren't a lot of options here, and almost by definition, the Houston-Arizona State game is really the only game that shifted things in a way that mattered. So I spent a lot of time, I had a miserable Saturday. One of my kids wasn't feeling very well. I didn't get to watch a lot of football. I had to go back and watch that Sunday morning. This morning, I went back and watched the West Virginia game, unfortunately, this morning. So I caught up a lot on Sunday, and it's ASU Houston because of things that you've called out in previous weeks, credit to you, now becoming more obvious, which is that Houston controls, I don't want to say they control their own destiny, but because they don't, but you have to include them in the top echelon of the conference. They can't win their way into the title game, but they could end up there if other parties lose their way. And so you now, after I talked up ASU last week and how, they're back in there, you got to include them in there. Well, now you don't. That lasted a week because it's Texas Tech there. They have the loss, but we still, we kind of know that that's the best, most complete, most talented team in the conference. They're probably going to end up in the title game when it's all said and done. You have BYU and Cincinnati, and if one of those teams stumbles once or twice, Houston's right there. And they don't play either one of those teams. And now they have the head-to-head over Arizona State. So they're right there. And they can, with a little bit of luck, they can end up there in the end playing for the title.
Yeah, look, it's Houston's path. This is where, like, the ESPN FPI odds are, and again, FPI being FPI, we take it all with a very large rock of salt. But, like, the fact that they are tied with Kansas State at 1.4% and behind TCU at 1.6% is insane to me. Like, I don't care, because Houston has the easiest path the rest of the way, and it's not close. It's West Virginia at home, at UCF, home for TCU, and at Baylor. And I'm not saying that they're not going to lose a game. Like they could lose to TCU. TCU's weird. I don't trust TCU
Beatable.
for anything, but they could beat Houston. They could have a good game, and Houston could have a weird one. Like, the Houston UCF game is on a Friday. It's going to be a Friday night game. Friday night games can get weird. Now, it's coming off of it's on a short week. So they're going to play West Virginia. Then they're going to go on the road on a short week to Florida to play UCF. And I know that UCF's not good, but, like, weird game. But, like, Houston's path compared to BYU, which, again, we've said the schedule was tough, and they've beaten Utah, and they've gone on the road and beat Iowa State. They've got to go to Texas Tech. They got a week off, then they got to go to Tech, and they have to go to Cincinnati still. So they got 2 games at Tech and at Cincinnati that aren't going to be easy. Oh, by the way, let's talk about Cincinnati, who has to go to Utah and has BYU on the schedule. Like, Texas Tech, they've still got BYU, and oh, by the way, this week they got to go to the hottest team in the Big 12 in Kansas State. Like, Houston has the easiest path by far of anyone left who is at 1 loss or less. Now, again, things can get wild, but, like, Utah has to have a lot of help. Arizona State now really needs to have some help. I don't understand this idea of, like, Houston's on a contender. Yes, if Cincinnati and BYU went out, it doesn't matter if Houston wins out, they're not in. They lose the tiebreaker to Texas Tech if that comes in. But, like, they're going to be in this race.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. And you talked about sort of the FPI projections. My bread and butter is obviously odds. So I have doing this sort of rapid reaction Sunday afternoon Big 12, analysis that I've been doing. I have landed on some good value bets. I talked up why I thought Cincinnati a couple weeks ago at 12-1 was a great bet given their path. You don't necessarily think at that price, I believe that Cincinnati is the best team in the conference and will win the Big 12 championship game. But what you're getting is great value for Cincinnati to slide into that second role, and you're giving yourself the ability to buy Texas Tech or possibly another team on the money line. Once you actually have the matchup, you own both sides, you secure yourself a net profitable position no matter who wins the game. So that's kind of how I approach a lot of futures betting scenarios, specifically in conference play. Houston is now in that role. I still think there's probably mathematically a little bit of value on Cincinnati at 8-1. BYU is like 550, I think, last I saw a few hours ago. Houston's 20-1. And as you were outlining there, like, the FPI projection is soft. A price of 20-1, I think is soft. For context, Arizona State is also 20-1. Well, Houston just beat Arizona State, and they have the head-to-head against them now. Like, imagine the scenario where 2-loss Big 12 Arizona State just gets to the game. How much has to happen, but they're priced the same as a 1-loss Big 12 Houston team. Those prices aren't quite right, and this is why paying very specific attention to conference standings and conference tiebreakers and the week-to-week ins and outs of a conference like this can actually yield you some pretty valuable bets if you're paying attention. So right now, clearly, if you are looking for value, I don't know how long it's going to last, but at BetMGM, 20-1 for Houston is kind of nuts. And mathematically, I think not tethered to the reality that we see going into week 10.
I think it's fair. I want to get to some early lines, but I want to talk to you about bowl eligibility. Oklahoma State's first Big 12 team officially eliminated from bowl contention with their 7th loss. I think it's fair to assume West Virginia is not going to win their last 4 in a row to get to bowl eligibility. So I'm going to go ahead and include them among the teams that's not going to go bowling despite being 2-6 and not being eliminated yet.
I was going to say, do you want me to break some news on the podcast? I'll break it right now. West Virginia not going to be bowl eligible.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Colorado's got to win 3 of their last 4, but I'll give them one more loss before we completely write them off. But BYU, Cincinnati, Texas Tech, Houston, TCU, and Utah all bowl eligible. And the question becomes, who's going to join them? Now, there's 2 teams who are 1 away with Iowa State and Arizona State. And then there is a collection of 5 teams who are 2 wins away. Kansas State, Kansas, Baylor, UCF, and Arizona. Kansas State, Kansas, and Baylor are 4-4. UCF and Arizona are 4-3. One of Iowa State and Arizona State will get their 6th win this coming weekend when they play each other in Ames. And I still feel confident that Arizona State, with what they have left in the schedule, they're going to go to a bowl game. Like, they're not, I feel comfortable with those 2. Where it gets interesting are the teams who are 2 wins away. I want to go through these, and I want you to kind of tell me, like, if you had to put to money, the bet line is just like, will go bowling, won't go bowling. You know, everything it's all plus 100, whatever. Kansas State at 4-4. Like I said, I think it's the hottest team in the Big 12 the way they've been playing. They're a couple plays away from being on a 4-game win streak had they not blown the game at Baylor. Host Texas Tech this weekend. Take a week off. At Oklahoma State, at Utah, home for Colorado. If I'm a betting man, I'm putting money on Kansas State's going to a bowl game.
Agree. I'll not only will I agree. Let me go half a spice hotter. Kansas State plus 7.5 against Texas Tech this weekend. I think that number is a Baron Morton might still be kind of shaky kind of number, but what that number says to me is Texas Tech might have some trouble here. I mean, that's a pretty short number. So they might get to 6 wins or flirt with getting to 6 wins even faster than you think. I totally agree on the hottest team in the conference thing. They're playing very well.
But Will Hammond's out, so it's going to be Baron Morton on Saturday. Like, he's going to be back. It's just a question of how ready is he actually. Okay.
Right. That's the part. Kansas, at the very end. There you go.
Yeah. Kansas is 4-4 after their 17th straight Sunflower Showdown loss. They have Oklahoma State at home this weekend. Then they go to Arizona. Then after a week off, they go to Iowa State, and they finish hosting Utah. I don't trust Kansas at this point. They're going to get a 5th win at home against Oklahoma State. But if Utah, at Arizona, at Iowa State, Utah to end the season, I don't feel confident, like overly confident that there's a 6th win in there.
I don't either. I'm going to take it a little spicier here. I will probably have a piece of Oklahoma State money line this.
I'd feel a lot better if it was at home for Oklahoma State, but okay.
Yeah, the value's betting on the road, though.
Baylor.
The value in these teams is always, can they do something weird on the road? Because it's so, like, when the expectation is maybe the bad team can do something at home, but they're going to get murdered on the road. But in reality, like, home field advantage is insignificant as it's ever been. So the value on a lot of these teams, especially late in the year.
Baylor is an interesting one at 4-4. Because I do think there's still a lot of question with Dave Aranda. Like, are they going to keep him? Is he going to be gone? Like, the list of jobs that are opening is getting bigger and bigger, and the
it is.
names of the jobs are getting bigger and bigger. Baylor has UCF at home this week, a week off, then host Utah, at Arizona, host Houston. I
don't know, man.
This is a stay away for me. It's a stay away for me. I don't know. I don't feel confident in yes, but I can't flat out say no either.
I'll say no. Go back to your original premise. I'm picking a side. You need 2 wins out of this group. I think Utah's going to run it right down their throat. I think Houston maybe could do not quite that, but pretty close. I think UCF runs the ball well. One of these teams, more than one of these teams, is not going to get to 6 wins. Not everybody gets to 6 wins because somebody's got to lose games. And I think Baylor's going to be on the wrong side of this.
UCF at 4-3. They've got 5 games left, so 5 opportunities to get 2 wins. They're at Baylor, home for Houston on a Friday, short week, at Texas Tech, home for Oklahoma State, and at BYU.
I would say throw the Houston and BYU games out because they are completely outclassed by those 2 programs right now.
And Texas Tech on the road.
Yeah, and Texas Tech on the road. So then you've got to sweep Oklahoma State and Baylor. Could they do that? Yes. Depending on the number you gave me, I might even bet on that to happen. But I would say, I don't know. I guess I would lean ever so slightly no. But, that's doable. That's doable.
That's how I feel. I feel like probably not. Would be probably not, but that's not a no. Okay, Arizona's also got 5 chances left to get 2 wins. At Colorado, home for Kansas, at Cincinnati, home for Baylor, at Arizona State. And reminder, last week we were like, yeah, I'm not going to pick Arizona to go to a bowl game. This feels like Cincinnati last year where they're just going to go on some crazy losing streak because we just don't trust Arizona.
We did say that. I still think
now I don't trust Baylor and I don't trust Kansas.
Right.
And I don't know about.
I think they're the other side of the coin flip of UCF where I'm like, could go either way, but I slightly lean no. I think here I slightly 52-48 lean yes. Because I don't think they'll win at Cincinnati. I think the other 4 games are winnable, including Arizona State. It's a rivalry game. Weird things happen in rivalry games. So that one's maybe a little bit more of a coin flip than it should be. You can get Baylor at home. You can get Kansas at home. You can get Colorado and Boulder. So, they should get there. I think. They're probably the widest range of outcomes because they could go 4-1 and win 8 games or they could lose out.
Yeah. That's dead on. Okay, any early lines you've got your eye on? I thought Iowa State being a 3-point favorite that's now up to like 4.5 was interesting.
4.5 now.
As we kind of mentioned, the Texas Tech being just a 7.5 point favorite. Utah up to a 7.5 point favorite at home versus Cincinnati. Any of those that stand out or anything else you want to point at?
The Kansas State 7, I know we've already talked about, but boy, doesn't that feel a lot like some of those late season Kansas lines last year where national people were kind of skydiving into the Big 12 going, Kansas is a 2-win team and they're only 3.5 point underdogs on the road to so-and-so. Like, that's crazy. Somebody must know something. Yeah, somebody watched the game and Kansas was the hottest team in the Big 12. And I think similar things can be said about Kansas State in the next few weeks, maybe. So I think that's one to watch. I think I kind of set this up last week when we talked about this on Wednesday with Oklahoma State, where I said I really liked some of the things they did in that Cincinnati game. I thought it was the best they looked all year. I'm not going to bet them against Texas Tech because that's stupid, but I'm going to sit on my chips and I'm going to wait for a spot where I think the game will be a little more competitive. This is the week. So I already have a bet on the 24.5. somebody hit the wrong key, I guess, when they were punching in the numbers for MGM setting the lines. So at one point, Oklahoma State was actually a 24.4 point dog instead of a 24.5 point dog. So I caught that. I have a ticket there already. I will probably get some more down later. Iowa State, this is now the third time in the last 4 games for Iowa State that they are involved in a game where a top 25 team is a dog to an unranked team. So that stat we talk about so much on the show. 3 times in 4 games for Iowa State. They've been on both sides of the stat, but they are 0-2 against the number in those games. And so this will be for sure a spot I am laying out of in real life. Like I will not be involved in this game because it's getting weird with Iowa State. And it just, like, I don't know how you lay points with this team that hasn't won since September against a pretty good Arizona State team. So that's just one I don't want to be a part of. I know what the stat is. I am arguably the biggest evangelist of the stat in all of the college football betting world, but I will not be partaking.
Okay. Good tease for Thursday. Chase will be back then to make picks with us. I'm very excited about this week's guest. I'm not going to tell you who it is because if I do, it'll fall through. Not their fault, of course. That's just how the fates tend to work. So Chase, appreciate it as always, and we will have your article for this week in the show notes.
Excellent. Sounds good. See you Wednesday, Phillip.
All right, we wrap the show up the same way every week. We look to the weekend ahead, what we've got on the docket. Another week of all Saturday games. BYU and TCU are off this week. We get to kick off the day with Baylor hosting UCF in a bowl eligibility battle at 11 a.m. on ESPNU. We kind of talked about both these teams need 2 wins. This is a big opportunity for both of them to get one of the wins they need. Bigger for Baylor because they have fewer games left on the schedule. So they kind of need this one more than UCF does. This one's on ESPNU at 11 a.m. Also at 11, Houston welcomes West Virginia to town. That one is on FS1. Hopefully no big letdown for Houston. It'd be hard to see, but listen, this is not a rivalry game, but, you know, it feels like it kind of should be one. Also in the morning, this time at noon, we got our TNT game of the week. Iowa State playing host to Arizona State. We talked about that game a bit. Both teams looking to turn things around after disappointing home losses this past weekend. The TNT games every week. New fans watch the TNT games and go, oh my goodness, this is the best coverage of Big 12 we have. This is incredible college football coverage. These people actually watch the games and know who the players are. It's phenomenal. It's a great one. If you want to put on one of the morning games, no offense to Houston, West Virginia, or Baylor, UCF, Arizona State, Iowa State, 2 teams in weird spots. I cannot wait. I cannot wait. Put the game on, y'all. Put it on. Watch the TNT games. We got 2 afternoon games. Texas Tech traveling to Manhattan to face the resurgent Kansas State Wildcats at 2:30 on Fox. Hottest team versus a team where we're still got questions about the quarterback. Man, this one's got upset written all over it. I don't know that I'm going to pick that, but man, this one's got look out all over it. 3 p.m. God's time on ESPN Plus. Kansas gets their what we call the unofficial bye week with Oklahoma State coming to town. I know what Chase said. Listen, I can actually read you some stats and stuff about Oklahoma State kind of playing a lot better despite, you know, the shutout this past weekend, both offensively and defensively. Question for Oklahoma State this week, though, is like, who's the starting quarterback for them? Don't know. One primetime game, Colorado playing host to Arizona, 7 p.m. And then a Big 12 After Dark doozy. I cannot believe this game is getting played at 9:15 p.m. First ever meeting between Utah and Cincinnati. Utah, the host on ESPN. I'm glad Game Day is going to this. Game Day is finally going to a Big 12 game. It is insane that Game Day is going to this game, which has a 9:15 p.m. kickoff. That's nuts. That's crazy. Like, I'm glad they are because this game deserves the attention. And that it's at 9:15 when a lot of people aren't going to be able to watch it sucks. It's atrocious. I mean, I'm glad they're going. I'm not going to suddenly like change my opinion on ESPN. They still seem to treat the Big 12 rather poorly, but at least they're taking Game Day to a Big 12 game. Finally, I guess all the other teams that they like are off this week or playing games that are so expected to be so absolutely lopsided. They're like, well, I guess this is the week. I guess this is when we go to the Big 12. But hey, they're there. This game could be absolutely awesome. This is either going to be an awesome game or Utah's going to blow Cincinnati out. I don't see how there's two other options. Our other final first ever matchup games, because there's two more. No, there's three more. And they will be over the next. No, there's two more. It's Utah, Cincinnati this week, and then we've got one in week 12 and one in week 13. Anyways, should be a fun week. Should be an interesting week. We got some really interesting games on the slate, as we do every week, but this week it's got some interesting stuff. I can't wait. I know you can't either. So thank you for listening. As always, do us a favor. Leave us a nice review. We'll be back on Thursday to make picks for the games upcoming this weekend. Talk to y'all again then.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I don't know if you've heard, but Mint's premium wireless is $15 a month. But I'd like to offer one other perk. We have no stores. That means no small talk. Crazy weather we're having. No, it's not. It's just weather. It is an introvert's dream. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan. $15 per month equivalent required. New customer offer first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.